So now what we have to do is go ahead and subdivide the edges of this so-called rope. So let's go back to edge mode. I'm going to select all these edges here in the middle. And now what I have to do is subdivide that. It's getting very hard to see what's going on, but just try to follow along with what I'm doing. Right click on the object with those edges selected and go to Subdivide Edges Evenly. And let's crank that up real high. 8 obviously is not going to be good enough. So let's try double that. Let's try 16. And 16 still isn't going to be good enough. So let's double that. Let's try 32. And there's 32 subdivisions. I think 32 is going to work out pretty good. Okay, so that's one really high-res piece of rope. But it's going to look great. So let me close the PPG. 32 subdivisions is what it has. And 32 subdivisions is going to be good enough to make this rope work. So it still doesn't look like a rope. What we have to do is add that little twist effect that the rope needs to complete the look. So how do we do that? Well, XSI has a neat way of doing that. Make sure you select the piece of rope, or the so-called rope. Go over here where it says Modify. Go to the Deform menu. And here in the Deform menu, you're going to see a deformer out of many deformers available in XSI. A deformer is going to be called Twist. That's the one we want. So click on that to select it, and you get this crazy result. Kind of looks like some kind of weird, I don't know what that looks like, but it looks weird. Let's go over here to this Twist Op PPG that popped up. Make sure you're in the first tab, which is the Deform tab. And right now the default axis is set to X. This is completely wrong. So we're going to tell XSI to switch to the Y axis, which is the up axis of our rope. And there we go. Now it goes back to normal. But if we look at this, you'll notice that it still looks the same. It doesn't look like anything's happened to the rope. Now let me hit Control and the plus key to go ahead and get rid of the wireframe cage for now. And what I'm going to do next is adjust this PPG to get the effect of the rope. So let's do that. First thing I'm going to do is change the angle. Right now it's set to 90 degrees, which gives it a very soft twist. And obviously it's so soft that we can't see the twist. So in order to be able to see the twist, obviously we're going to have to go higher than 90. So let's crank this up to 360. And you can see in the viewport how the rope starts to twist more. But this still is not enough twist. Let's go ahead and change that to double that. So let's go to 720, which is double 360. Hit enter. And it twists a little bit more. But you can see that the area that got twisted more is back here. And this area didn't get twisted too much. The problem is that by default, the twist effect is going to be really soft on the ends of the rope and really strong in the middle of the rope. Obviously, that's no good. Because if we look at our reference image, the twist effect is even throughout the entire rope, throughout the middle and from one end to the other. So we need to tell XSI to do that. To tell XSI to do that, we're going to go over here to this twist effect tab. And you'll notice that we have this interpolation curve that is affecting our twist. Right now this is a spline curve, meaning that it's a very soft slopey curve that interpolates the twist effect of the rope from end to end. And we can't have this right now. In this case right now, we can't have these soft slopes. What we have to do is create a linear curve. It's very easy to do. Select just by dragging a box with the left mouse button. Just drag around that little key tick right there and it'll become highlighted in red and you'll be able to see the handles in black. Well, with that key selected, just go over here and click on this button here that looks like a straight line connecting two dots, and it'll turn it into a linear keyframe. Then we're going to go ahead and select this first tick and we're going to go ahead and click on that button again, and now you'll see that the curve is perfectly straight. It just goes just perfectly straight. Like a jagged cliff. That's what we want. You also notice that the rope over here in the viewport jumped and changed a little bit. Okay, let's go back here to Deform. Now, obviously this isn't enough twist. We're going to have to twist this a lot more. So we're going to have to go to double 720, which I believe is going to be 1440. I'm not very good at math. I'm kind of too lazy to pick up a calculator. So there we go. And 1440 looks pretty good, but I still don't like the way that the ends are coming out over here. So let's try going to something higher. I don't really want to go to double 1440. Let me just increase that to about 2000. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Twisted it a little bit more. Let me see how this looks. Let me do a render region here. And we can see how the rope is coming out. Not too bad. Now we could twist the rope more and more if we wanted to. The way you would do that is, of course, by increasing this angle parameter over and over again. But for the purposes of the tutorial, I'm not going to waste too much of your time changing that parameter over and over again. I'm going to leave it at 2000 because it looks good enough. If you want to twist it more and go crazy with your twist, go ahead and increase it to 2000. If you don't even want the rope to twist, you can leave it at 0 if you wanted to. It's really up to you. So I'm going to leave it at 2000. I think 2000 is going to be good enough for the purposes of learning what in the world's going on here. So I'm going to close this PPG. And with the rope selected, I'm going to go down here and hit the freeze M button to freeze modeling on the rope to clean it up. Okay, so that does it for the twist effect. The next thing we need to do is, you'll notice that the rope is just laying flat on the ground perfectly straight, kind of like a stick. Obviously, that's not the way that the rope should look. It should kind of curve and be more natural, like somebody dropped the rope on the floor. And obviously when you do that, the rope's not going to land on the floor perfectly straight like this. That just doesn't happen. So what we need to do is curve the rope. So to curve the rope, we're going to use a special little technique here in XSI, which gives us a lot of power over situations like this. What I'm going to do is go to a top view, and we're looking at this from a top view right now of the rope. What I need to do is create a curve, and I'm going to create a curve in XSI from the beginning of the rope all the way to the end of the rope. And you're going to see what's going to happen here. Let's go to the Create menu, Curve, and go to Draw Cubic by CVs. Now we're going to have to zoom in here a bit, like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold down Control, and then we're going to click, and you can click on this grid point. Click on the grid point that cuts the rope in half down the middle right here. And I'm going to click first out here, for example. Right here is going to be the starting point of my curve. And then what I can do is just keep moving down here and maybe put another point over here. I'm going to hold down Control, and while holding down Control, you'll notice that there's this cursor. It looks kind of like a little shooting icon or something from a first-person shooting game, and that's going to allow you to snap to the grid. So if I click and hold, you notice the word grid pops up, and the point is snapping to the grid in the background. So let me snap this right there. Really doesn't matter where it is, as long as it's down the middle of the rope is good. Hold down Control, snap that there. Hold down Control, click another point here. Hold down Control, click another one down here maybe. Hold down Control, and I'm just going to go a little bit quick here. A little bit quicker. I'm just going to keep holding down Control while I click these points down the middle of the rope. So you're probably wondering, what in the world are we creating this curve for? I mean, what's the purpose of it? Well, you're going to see in a moment. Once we reach the end of the rope out here, just place it a couple of units past the rope. You don't have to be totally precise. It could be over here or in the middle. Doesn't matter. As long as you're going down a straight line down the middle of the rope is good enough. Let's right click, and when you do that, a menu pops up. Click on Exit Tool, and that'll end this curve session. And if I go back to my camera view, you'll notice that this curve, this line, has been created in our XSI scene. There it is, and I can actually move it, and I can manipulate it just like I could any other object. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the rope, the so-called rope. I'm going to go to the Deform menu, and I'm going to go to By Curve. So I'm going to deform by curve. When I click on that, you'll notice that my mouse cursor changes and the word pick is underneath it. And if you look at the bottom of the XSI interface, you'll notice that there's a green area down there. And what XSI wants you to do, wants you to pick a curve. So let's go ahead and select that curve. And now you notice that just like when we apply the twist deformer, something funny happens. The rope pops up and stands straight up into the air. Well, what we want to do is change a few parameters here. Let's go over here to the constrain menu, and we want to turn on constrain to deformer. So let's check that on. So now the rope is going to constrain to the line that we drew. Let's go back to curve deform. Click on this keyhole icon up here in the PPG to pin that property page down. I don't want it going anywhere. Now, if we go down here to translation along, you'll see this curve parameter, the first one. If we go ahead and use that parameter, we can actually make the rope slide along the curve. So how is that useful? Well, it's very useful because we can select this curve. Let's say we go to a top view, and now what we can do is we can alter and change this curve and make it sort of just turn around, and we can bend it to any shape we want. For example, we can make the curve, which is a straight line right now, we can turn it and make it kind of make these swirl type patterns over and over again, and that'll make the rope get a swirl type pattern. So let's take this this line that we created and start to do that. I'm going to take the first point over here, and you just have to go to point mode. Go to point mode, and you can do this very easily. Hit M on the keyboard to activate the tweak tool. And by doing that, all you have to do is hover over a point, click, and drag, and you can move that point wherever you want. So just start clicking on these points to manipulate this. And what I'm going to do for now, so that my exercise scene runs a little bit faster, I'm going to hit 8 on the keyboard. I'm going to select the cylinder, which is the rope, and I'm going to hit H to hide it. This way exercise doesn't have to worry about drawing the rope all the time, and I can go ahead and work on this faster. So I'm just going to go ahead and start picking these points and moving them around and such. So I'll start to move these points around, and I have too many points, so I'm going to select some of these points, like say these two over here, hit delete on the keyboard to get rid of them. Maybe I'll get rid of these two, and maybe I'll get rid of these two over here, and maybe this one, and I'll select maybe this one here in the middle and delete that one too. The less points you have, the easier it is to manipulate this curve into a position. Edit this audio portion out of the video. Keep the video, but edit the audio portion out because of the stupid dog that's barking. So we'll just keep working with this while the stupid dog in the background barks like a fucking moron. Not even sure if this is going to work. Should have tested this first before trying it. Now I don't even know if it's going to work. Okay, we're coming back in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now that I finished pretty much getting the curvature here of this rough shape over here, let me go back to my camera viewport here, and let's hit 8 on the keyboard to open up the Explorer. Select the cylinder, which is actually the rope. Hit H on the keyboard to unhide it, and there's the rope. Okay, so all we have to do is take this translation along curve parameter and just increase that parameter up. So let's take it up to a value of say 30. We're going to have to go higher, so let's go to say 60. And just a hunch, but let's take it up to 100. And that might be a little bit too much, although that doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty random, like a short piece of rope. Maybe some army guys cut it up and just dropped it there. Didn't need it for whatever reason. Who knows? Maybe a helicopter dropped it. I don't know. But the point is, there's the rope. So we can change this curve parameter to anything we want. 100 looks okay. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it like that on purpose. It's a very good thing that this happened. You notice that the rope is overlapping on itself. That's okay. That works. The reason that works is because if we go ahead and select our curve here, and you can do that easily by the Explorer. Just select it from the Explorer. That way you don't have to try to dig in between this rope. And now what I can do is go to point mode, and I can select these points and move them like this. And I could actually move the rope so that it sits on top of itself like so. So I can just come in here and adjust that so it's just touching the top of the rope, so it's touching itself just barely. Okay, so now it's laying on the ground and the rope is laying on top of itself. Now, the cool thing about this rope is that what you can do is you can normal map it and apply it to a low resolution rope to put into a next gen game or something like that, which is actually a pretty good application for using this kind of thing for. So let's render that out real quick, and we'll see that there we go, we've got our rope. Excellent. So if you wanted a longer piece of rope, just do a longer cylinder, and that's all you really have to do. So there's our rope. We're done. Now I'm going to select the rope. I'm going to go to freeze M to freeze modeling on the rope. And now that the rope is cleaned up and frozen, let me hit 8 on the keyboard to open up the Explorer view. And with the cylinder selected, I'm going to hit F2 and I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call it, of course, rope. It finally earned its name. It's no longer the so-called rope. It's finally going to be called the rope. So I'm going to select the rope. I'm going to go up to File. I'm going to go to Export. I'm going to export it as a .xsi file. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave all the default options alone. They're perfectly fine. I'm going to click on OK. And now I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that this is called a rope, not rope 1. And I'm going to hit OK and export this out as the rope. And there we go. So we're totally done. This rope is complete and good to go. So that does it for this video.